FCA podcast where faith meets competition. We're your host, Josh Adair and Zac Rose, and we are so grateful and thankful to have our guest with us today, Mark Miller. Mark is our direct report, or my direct report in FCA, the big director overall Central Arkansas FCA, and I mean, you can tell the official title of exactly what you are here in a minute, but just wanted to have him in, talk about his family, how he got to FCA, a little bit of his playing days back at the University of Arkansas on the Hill as quarterback, vision and hope for the future of here, and whatever wisdom that he wants to impart to us. Like I said in previous episodes, we have close to 20 on FCA staff here in Central Arkansas, and we all report to Mark. And he's trusted us with leadership and vision and wisdom, and led us to where we are today, and we're looking forward to building in the future to beyond. So with that said, Zac, you have anything you want to say to kick us off?
Hey, let's have a good conversation today, fellas. It's going to be a good one. Anytime I go away from a conversation with Mr. Mark Miller, I'm encouraged. I have laughed pretty hard, and I know I've gained some wisdom. So I'm excited for it today. Yeah,
we're excited to be sponges and see what we can learn and apply, and not to be too weird, but to squeeze out on other people we have encounters with in FCA and around the world, and lead closer to Jesus. So, Mark, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm always concerned when a young man says Mr. Miller. You know, that certainly dates me. And of course, when I was early 20s, I called people at my ancient age Mr. also.
Yeah.
So that's good.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad to be here. You mentioned family and things of this nature. I married way up. You know, I'll get to one of the questions you were mentioning about my time at Arkansas. In all my athletic adventures, I only had one game that I felt like I significantly contributed to the loss, and that was the Baylor game in 1974. The good news is that the young lady that I married went to Baylor.
There you go.
And so I came out way ahead. We've been married, it'll be 48 years.
Was she at that game?
She won't admit it if she was. If she was, she wasn't pulling for us. But no, I don't think she was actually at it. The game was at Fayetteville. And it was one of those things that we had the game won the last few minutes. And I took the blame for it for the last 50-something years, even though I have shared recently that it was the second-team center in there. And my hands and his bottom didn't exactly mesh. So anyway, he had his mission. He didn't play a lot, and this is one reason, but I took the blame. His mission was to get the left linebacker. We were going with Ike Forte over right tackle. I was going left to hand off to Ike, and Ike ended up playing 10 years or more in the NFL. I went left. The center went right. The ball stayed on the ground. Baylor recovered. 2 minutes later, they went in and scored. It was one of the few times that I walked into the dressing room after the game. Coach Broyles was in, I think, a fetal position in the corner. But it was a learning experience, to say the least. And but we've got, since Kay and I married in 1977, we have 4 children, 3 girls, and a boy came along last. And with that crew, we've got 10 grandkids now, spread out from just a few months to 20. So good group. I've been very blessed.
That's awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing. And we're glad you're here, and see what we can learn and go and grow from, and what we can benefit other people from. It's always what we want to do. We want to go deeper than surface level and get to the story behind the story, and see how we can relate and encourage people. So, Zac, lead us away with some questions.
Yeah, to kind of start off, and we'll kind of tell the story as it's gone here in your life, from being a young quarterback at the University of Arkansas. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience? Kind of, I mean, I know the recruiting process is probably a whole lot different than it was when you were going to play college ball, but tell me a little bit about your love for football, kind of how that grew over the years, and why you decided to go play at Arkansas.
Well, that's a good question. I grew up in Augusta, Arkansas, on the White River, about 20 miles northeast of Searcy. And community involvement and support was a big deal. I had so many people around me during that time, a lot of great kids. I mean, we ran same offense from the 7th grade on. So all of us were about 175 pounds. And it was just, I loved it. Would eat, drink, breathe it. And Friday nights were a community affair. And so my roommate for 3 years at Arkansas, we both got elected or selected the Sunkist All-American team our senior year. I always wanted to go to Arkansas. I got recruited by some other schools, LSU, Vanderbilt, and different ones. And Coach Horton, who was the main recruiter for my area, dear friend, and Coach Horton just passed away a few weeks ago. But back then, you talk about a difference in recruiting. The big thing back then would go out to eat. And Coach Horton used the salt and pepper shakers to recruit you. He would get the table and he said, Mock, you go to Vanderbilt, and he'd do the salt shaker. Said, here you be, all by yourself, nobody around you. You come to Arkansas, John Richardson, Marsh White, all these great players around you. Oh, yeah, Coach, I got to go there. And but no, if I'd gone somewhere else, Augusta had a lot of people that went to Arkansas, and so I needed to go to Arkansas. And so many friends that we met during that time, still very close friends. Scott Bull, who I mentioned, was my roommate for 3 years. He decided to get married in August of our senior year. And I said, Scott, what are you thinking? You've been with me all this time. You want to get married? I mean, come on. And so he did. But there were actually 3 of us, Mike Kirkland and Scott and myself. Each of us played a year. Mike played in 73, I played in 74, and Scott played in 75. If you're going to play at that level, at some point you're going to get hurt. Each of us had knee injuries. Mike started against Southern Cal out in Coliseum in 73. Southern Cal came back and played in 74 here in Little Rock, and we beat them. They ended up being the number 1 team in the country. So that was a highlight, and I mentioned too that Baylor was a low time. And then Scott played in the best year. Scott played when we went to the Cotton Bowl and beat Georgia. And so, but all during that time at the university, most everybody then was on a 5-year plan. You get redshirted. We did have a freshman team. Never forget, we had a guy from Bonham, Texas named Marsh White. He was 6'2", 255, and ran a 4.5 40. And back then you had a freshman team, and we were playing SMU at Texarkana. And I handed the ball off to Marsh on the 12-yard line, and he literally carried 6 SMU guys into the end zone. I looked at our guys. I said, we have a fullback. And so Marsh ended up being went to Dallas Theological Seminary. He smuggled Bibles into Russia for a period of time, and unfortunately Marsh ended up dying a few years ago of cancer. Great guy, and had so many dear friends that we still stay in touch with. When you go through athletics or any adventure, like you're with a group of friends and you go through the challenges that you do for 5 years, it builds a bond that you're together.
Absolutely.
And, we had some lean years and finished up, good that last year in 75. The only stupid thing I did on that was 5th year, I said there were 3 quarterbacks, seniors, and I was the only one dumb enough to say I could play defense. And they had me at free safety. And I started the first 5 games, but they suddenly realized I wasn't a defensive player. I could have told them that. But I'll never forget, I think it was Utah State. We were playing here in Little Rock, and they had a 245-pound tailback. And he kept popping off tackle, and there I am at free safety. I said, I got this. So I'm coming up. I meet him at the line of scrimmage, get him. I stand up, and I'm seeing all these stars. And I didn't like that. And so Sunday afternoon, Jimmy Johnson said, Miller, that's what we want. I'd already decided that ain't what I want. And so, we had some defensive backs, as Dr. Bo Busby says, if they don't have CTE, it doesn't exist because they got knocked out once a week. So anyways, great experience up there, and I can talk about the FCA chapter there also when you'd like me to.
Yeah. definitely. That's what I was going to transition into here. As you're playing, as you're an athlete, obviously now being a director for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, what was that experience like with FCA, or even just the gospel as you're growing up? How did that play a role in your playing days growing up?
Yeah. Well, I grew up at First Methodist Church there in Augusta. I was very fortunate. My parents, we were there every Sunday. Of course, Methodists don't have Wednesday night, but we had Sunday night and all that good stuff. But great pastor, Harold Wilson, was had a lot of influence on me. And then there was a coach by the name of George Jones. He was the assistant coach to Coach Curtis King, who was kind of the dean of Arkansas coaches and just a tremendous coach. But George kind of took the lead on the FCA Huddle. This would have been, I graduated in 71, so about 67 or so. George, 68, came in and started the Huddle. And so from there, when I got to the university, the FCA Huddle was already very strong with Bill Montgomery, Mike Bolschetti, Mike Saint, John Reese, just a great group of people. And H.D. McCarty, who was the pastor at University Baptist Church, was the chaplain. And every Thursday, we would have a group of about 90 athletes from Wilson Sharp at a Bible study. And so it began to lay the foundation. I had become a Christian, asked Christ in my life my senior years. And that began the process of growing in Christ and going to the university. It's very easy. Not that I wasn't distracted at the university at times. We all drift sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't wild and crazy. Unfortunately, God put Scott in my life as a roommate. Mike Kirkland was a dear friend. We had David Spriggs and so many that kept us in line. And so, but the FCA and the University Baptist Church for us was a solid pillar, solid foundation for us to stay on track.
What do you feel like was the attraction originally to building your relationship with the Lord, and what do you think was the biggest catalyst for why you were able to continue to grow in your relationship with Jesus?
Well, once you make that decision that you place your faith in Christ and you receive the Holy Spirit, He has been my bumper pads. He is my conscience. And I know when I'm drifting. Unfortunately, you're drifting, he will tell you. And as you spend time in His Word and prayer and the counsel of other people, I've been very fortunate that when I got out of school and went to my first job with IBM or finished up with Medtronic, I had people around me in our church that also were men and women that would hold me accountable. Of course, my wife certainly hold me accountable. And her parents, she grew up, I didn't tell you this, she grew up in a medical missionary family. Her dad was a surgeon, her mother was a nurse, and Kay was a nurse. She could have been a doctor, and I told her that I'd be fine to fund that. But she didn't fall for it. It's a constant discipline to stay in the Word, to stay in prayer, and to make sure you're surrounding yourself with other Christians for good counsel.
So with that said, stay in the Word, stay grounded, be in good community with other Christians. How have you seen that? It's one of our pillars that we try to focus on is on-campus ministry and surrounding athletes with good people and all that. So how as we get to, I'm going all over the place. I had too many thoughts in my head here. I do need to say this. We didn't say this to begin with. This is Beyond the Huddle, Central Arkansas FCA, Faith Talk 99.5. You can catch this on podcasts wherever podcasts are streamed. If you're listening to this and you would like to listen to it on the radio, it comes on at 6:05, 6:10 on Faith Talk 99.5. And that way you can listen to it as soon as it comes hot off the press. And if not, you can listen to it at your leisure, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. So how in the world you leave football, you leave University of Arkansas, you go through IBM, go to Medtronic. How in the world did you end up as being Mr. FCA for Central Arkansas?
Well, that's a good question. That's a Lord thing. I mean, it didn't just happen. T. Ray Grandstaff, who was our former state director, when I retired from Medtronic in 2017, I was at a FCA golf tournament, and T. Ray came up to me and said, "Hey, would you consider being the director in Central Arkansas?" And I looked at him like he had three eyes. I said, "T. Ray," but Kay and I talked about it. We prayed about it, and it seemed to be a natural fit. I didn't really know what I was going to do after my 40-something years in the business community. But for 8 months, I didn't have a problem with staying busy because Kay had plenty of things for me to do.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed that time. But I think it's very important for men particularly, and just from my perspective, I see so many people that they retire and they don't have an objective. And if they don't, they die. I mean, you got to have an objective. You got to have a purpose. And FCA provided, I mean, I've been involved since high school, but from a staff standpoint, it provided a purpose and a vision that I'm a builder, and I want to see where we start, and I want to see where the end goal is. And so the transition was, I think, fairly easy. It was a natural fit. We had a good group when I came on, and what we wanted to do is pray and see what the Lord wanted to do as we grow. And what I've found, I'll say this kind of humorous, but as long as I stay out of the way and pray, things go really well. And so, you don't want to go ahead of God. We don't want to pray and then ask God to join us after we've made our plans. We want him to join us up front as we make the plans. And that seems to have worked, well.
In the world that we live in today, a lot of people think that because you're a builder for the kingdom or a builder in your business, that you have to lead the way. It's counterintuitive to say that you're a builder, that you're going to proceed and do and have grand visions and everything for the future and be like, all right, we're just going to sit back and pray and see what God opens. And then when he reveals it to you, then you do the building.
Yeah. There's a book a few years back by Bill Hybel, books that was titled Too Busy Not to Pray. And so often we think, we got this. I got a little plaque on my desk that says, I got this, God. But we don't. There's so many things we think we're in control of, but we're not. And so the best way is stay in the scripture, listen to what he's telling you, and then surround yourself by people that have the vision and utilize the talents that God's given, the gifts. We all have talents, but we have at least one spiritual gift. And to discover that and to use it for his glory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever feel like, or have you ever seen in your own life where the Lord has used a tough time, whether it was painful physically, mentally, spiritually, to be able to develop you further in your spiritual walk?
Why you ask these personal questions?
We're going deeper beyond the huddle. We don't do surface here.
Well, that's a good question. In high school, I really was never hurt. I was fine. Pulled muscles, things like that. But I got to university, and I've shared with you, not because of anything I've done. We worked hard at high school and got All-American status, which prompted I was the number one recruit. Coach Broyles, Coach Horton, my pastor, my mom and dad. Coach Broyles came to our house, and I was the first signee in 71, which would have been worth a lot of money right now.
Yeah. I'm sure they had you plastered all over social media back then, too.
Yeah, newspaper. But I only say that to say I got to university and made second team all-conference, which isn't any big deal. But it was. I thought it was. And so we go into spring practice, and there's a guy named Joe Ferguson who played 15 years, I think, in the NFL for Buffalo Bills and had a tremendous career. And he was an excellent quarterback. And but we were playing them back then. Affiliated Foods sponsored the red-white game, which more and more colleges are eliminating the red-white game because of injuries. Well, our team won in Fayetteville, beat Ferguson's team. He was the passer. I was the wishbone. He scored faster, but we ended up beating him. They weren't going to let that happen in Little Rock. And so we came down here, and we were doing good. But I had did a counter reverse option. And my old roommate, Matt Morrison, I had gotten around him 2 other times that night. And this particular time, I did an out fake in going back out. And my shoe hung on the turf and tore my knee up. And so that went from backing up Joe Ferguson his senior year to being out for 18 months. Now, once you have back then, if you had an ACL and a cartilage tear, it took a while. And I got my straightaway speed back, but I never got the ability to cut. And so you have that incident where, okay, you're moving forward at a pretty good pace, and now it's not happening. But that was in 72. Like I mentioned, Mike started in 73, and I came back and started in 74. So there was a process of being tenacious and disciplined and working. Probably one of the biggest hurdles that I experienced early on in life. Not if you fast forward or you come back 10 or 15 years, 20 years, you're looking at family deaths. You're looking at friends who've lost children. All of those situations are growing situations. But on something that's really not near at that level, I mentioned to you that the only game I thought I significantly contributed was the Baylor game. And I can't remember if we played Texas the next week or 2 weeks later, but we go down to Austin, and I'm noticing that the coaches are talking to my dear roommate, Scott Bull, more than they're talking to me, and I'm supposed to be starting. And I did start, but they pulled me quickly. And, that was tough in the sense that, okay, I've been the starter, and now I made the mistake, and that happens. I understand. And so, but we got through that. We were all right. And so I fine to back Scott up, finished out the year, and then Scott started the next year. And so between that and you get in business situations, sometimes you think you're doing well and you might get reassigned or something of that nature. And you got to realize that God's got it. He's in control. There's a purpose for this. And every time something like this happened, when you look back, you can say, okay, this is why this happened, and I've learned from it. And as long as you don't become bitter, you're fine. Those are minor setbacks.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. What would you say? I was going to say, what would you say to a young person, but you're already a young person. So what would you say to a less experienced Mr. Miller? What would you say to
coming out of this hole over here?
What would you say to a less experienced person going up through high school, playing sports, has big goals, big objectives to play at the highest level they can? What would you say to them to encourage them, whether dealing with pain, whether dealing with disappointment? What advice would you give a less experienced person?
I'm really glad, Josh, that we got Zac in here.
Me too.
I'm really asking for myself. That's
Me too. Yeah,
I am the less experienced person.
Well, to me, looking back, one, learn everything you can about whatever situation you're in, whether it's a ministry, whether it's a job, whatever it is. Become the person that people come to for advice or counsel or whatever it might be. But also, I think it's important to remember it's not about you. It's not about me. I feel like I need to be more of a Barnabas. I mean, you gotta be an encourager. I know so often step in the huddle on the 2-yard line going 98 yards, and I would have to look at them and say, we got this. Be happy. And you got to have a little humor with them because you're in the hole, and you got a long way to go. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes, but I'd rather have people make mistakes and learn from the mistakes than make a mistake and not realize and not accept the fact that they need to be corrected. And so tenacity is a good thought. Discipline. You got to do things now that most people don't want to do now. You look at the great people that are very successful. They do the things that others don't want to do. And so that would be maybe a start on encouraging a younger person.
Definitely. Yeah. A less experienced person. Less experienced person.
Thank you very much.
And that's what this idea, I hear it often, especially with students that I go talk to. It's, we have these big objectives, these big goals, and like everyone wants to go play college ball. I don't know any athlete who wouldn't want to go play at the next level. But this idea that you got to be willing to work harder than the person next to you. And the best things in life are the things that you got to work the hardest for a lot of times too. Because the best things in life, if everyone could just get them so easily, they wouldn't be the best things in life. So I feel like I've noticed that a lot in conversations with people. So I think that's a great word of wisdom for a less experienced athlete out there.
Dave Ramsey, what does he say on Financial World? He says, live today like no one else lives so that you can live tomorrow like no one else lives. And what he's saying is that financial discipline. What we're saying from an athletic standpoint is you got to do the things that the other people think they can coast. And once you, whether it's high school or if you're going to go to the next level, once you get there, there's people that are as gifted and probably more. So you really got to step it up big time. And so that's a key ingredient. Attitude is very important. I'd rather have somebody with a very positive attitude and hard worker than somebody that, Phi Beta Kappa, even though that's important. Phi Beta Kappa is good. But I still, so many times you can take the ones that are maybe not as talented, but they work harder, and they're your real race horse.
No, I agree with that. I think we've talked about this before, but I'd rather have somebody who works hard. I'd rather have a worker than a thinker, because it's a lot easier to train a worker to think than it is a thinker to work.
Yeah.
A lot of times we get stuck in our thoughts and we overanalyze, we overdo all kinds of stuff, and we just it's analysis paralysis. We get in our own head and we don't know how to get out. But if you have a few tasks and you do them well and you work hard, then the more that you work through conversation while you're working together. I think Jesus shows us that all the time. He was with the people all the time. He was doing the work. He wasn't a Pharisee. He studied the law. He knew the law. He was the law. He was the word in the flesh, and everyone else was trying to study to figure out what's going on, and they judged him by his actions instead of by their thoughts. So when we can find people like that, whether it be in the locker room, in our huddles on campus, or new young racehorses like we have here, like Zach being on staff.
Less experienced. Not young or old, just less experienced.
Well, you're new.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm liking them better.
Yeah, I mean, but however, whatever adjective you want to use, but the people who come in who have a vision, and they like, all right, let me get after it. Let me get to work. Instead of sitting back thinking, oh, what could we do and what should we do? Well, just be faithful to show up and go visit a coach and go visit a huddle and show up on repetition and all of that. So back to your story of coming on staff with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. When you came on staff with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, what did Central Arkansas FCA look like?
Well, we had, I think, 4 or 5 people, and we had 8 counties.
4 or 5 staff?
4 or 5 staff in Central Arkansas.
Okay.
We had 8 counties. And I knew that the task was to get more people, more boots on the ground, and be able to cover more schools, impact more coaches and kids. And so that's what I was talking about earlier. It wasn't like we put an ad in the paper and said, hey, come join FCA. Because to come to FCA, it's a calling. It's a ministry. You've got to have the passion for what God has called you to do. I mean, you don't go for the money, obviously. I mean, everybody, as you might have shared, is faith-based, meaning they raise their own support. And one of the things that I wanted to do is to set the structure up so that when I wasn't here, it would be financially healthy. And that's why we ended up with 11. We have 11 counties now. But I wanted it with 4 directors, and each director have the responsibility and the encouragement to grow each of the areas so that they would take ownership of those areas. And that has worked pretty well. I think we're moving toward a pretty healthy situation. I think God's leading some changes in the sense that, I'll just say it, with everybody being faith funded, there's some good years, and then there's some there's some slowdowns. And so what we don't want to do is lose good people because of the funding. And I think if we can build an endowment, a foundation, that we can build that to where when we look at the situation on an annual basis, we're watching things monthly and quarterly, but on a financial situation on an annual basis, we can help supplement the reps and directors to maintain the level that they need to survive or to live. We can bring, I don't know if you want this or not, but we can bring people on from a federal government standpoint on a salary for $36,000 a year. You can't live on $36,000 a year by the time they take everything out. And so we want everybody will continue to raise funds, but I think if we can set this up, then we can help the people get to where they need to be over a period of time. I don't know if anybody's listening has gone out and tried to raise funds. It's a challenge. It's not a task, not for the weak of heart. And so, but we're very fortunate. The partners and the donors that we have in Central Arkansas are great. They do a tremendous job of supporting us. And we have 2 fundraisers a year. We have a banquet coming up June the 5th, which we're very fortunate. It's pretty well full, and a golf tournament in September. Those are our 2 major events. And then we have other events in each of our areas. And so that's gone well. But the structure, I think, is in place, with Central Arkansas being kind of a hub to help all the other areas to continue expanding the message.
Yeah, that's great. I'm super grateful that you talked about we were faith funded. I don't know if you know this, but Ryan Webb, as soon as I was let go from my church job, he called me. He's like, "Hey, come work FCA," and I'm like, "I love the ministry. We go to Fields of Faith all the time, or every year whenever it's offered, and we bring people." And he's like, "Well, come to work." I was like, "All right, so how do we get paid? How does this work? I know it's a ministry." He's like, "Oh, you raise your own support." I'm like, "Absolutely not. I don't want to do that." But I remember exactly where we were. I was driving behind the Cabot football stadium, talking to him on the phone, just driving home from church one day. And I knew the church time was coming to an end. He called me. He's like, "Hey, how are things going in Cabot? What's coaches like?" Da, 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 da. He's like, "Why don't you come work with me?" I'm like, "No." So then it took me 2 years to figure out that that's where I was supposed to be. And everything you talked about is exactly right. It's your calling. It's a calling to ministry. It's a way to live out the calling that God has placed on your life. And I remember sitting down with you at Chick-fil-A, and we walked through the vision and we got to the mission. And he said it's to lead every coach and athlete to grow in a relationship with Jesus Christ and his church. And I remember looking at you and saying, "I'm it. I'm your guy.
I'm the guy.
I'm your guy." I know you didn't know me at the time. You probably like, "Oh, who's this tall guy? And was he saying that I'm your guy?" and all this other stuff. But flew through the process because I knew I was called to it. And whatever you're called to, whatever God calls you to, you got to do. If you don't, you're miserable. Or he makes you miserable, or he makes it to where you can't do anything but what he has called you to do. And if that meant that I had to raise support, I didn't know what that was. But as you said, there are times where raising support is not always fun. It's not always easy, but it's an opportunity. I see raising support, and Zach, you can speak to this too, or Mark, I guess you can too. Raising support, I see it as the parable of the sower. In the parable of the sower didn't just plant the seed in just the good soil and the fertile soil where he thought he was going to get the most return. He spread it everywhere that he went. And that's another reason why we're doing this podcast, is an opportunity for more people to hear, more people to be aware, more people to have the opportunity to join us on mission. With your financial investments, people think, "Oh, I don't have money." I'll just tell you right now, well, it's not yours anyway. It's God's, and he's just giving you the opportunity to have it and to use it here on earth to bless people, to be generous with. It's an attitude. It's a reflection of your heart, and it's an opportunity to sow seeds of the kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. So,
Zach, you might remember, I was talking to Mark Henry, pastor at Fellowship Bible Church, and he said, "You need to talk to Josh Adair." And I said, "Well, give me some information about Josh." He was very high on you. And after I met you, I understood why. But it's interesting what we're doing here on the radio broadcast, plus when we are in all of the different things that we do, we're expanding the footprint of FCA. And if Mark hadn't known you and hadn't shared that with me, then I wouldn't have reached out, obviously, at least at that particular time.
Yeah.
I think you were working at the school system at that particular time.
It was.
And so Ryan planted 2 years earlier, and then that was about the time COVID came in.
I came on staff. My first week on campus was March 1, 2020.
And then you got COVID.
And then 2 weeks after that, we were shut down for 5 months of spring break.
Yeah. So then with 4 little ones.
Yeah.
And
3 at the time.
Yeah.
And another one since. Yeah.
So it was a faith.
100%.
Yeah. But you've had some opportunities through that process. You've seen how God intervened and raised your support and your partnership. And great job, you and Zach up in Lonoke County and up Central East. And you've expanded y'all's area to Stuttgart and different places.
Yep. We were already going to the schools similar to, we had Lonoke County, and we're in Cabot, and I knew some people in Des Arc. I'm like, what's it like over there? And they're like, well, we need it. So we talked and reorganized and gained Prairie County. And then in Carlisle and Lonoke County, where it was like, all right, so what's going on over in Hazen, which is Prairie County also. And it's just 10 minutes down the road. And most people between Carlisle and Hazen are in the same family anyway. And they just go to different schools and play on different football teams. Like, they're together with each other at family reunions and everything on holidays, and sitting on opposite sides of the stadiums and ballparks everywhere all the other times. But like, what can we do for Jesus there? What can we do to expand ministry? And then when we get down to England, Stuttgart's another 30 minutes away. Or like, what can we do there? And just taking in a little bit more, establish ministry, have some faithful leaders who show up and invest, that we train. And a lot of people don't know this, but Fellowship of Christian Athletes is we mobilize volunteers. We are a volunteer army. We're always looking for some men and women who love. I think of it as in 3 categories of you love teenagers, you love Jesus, and you love sports, or you love 2 out of the 3. You love 2 out of the 3. You're interested in partnering and serving on local school campuses to impact the life of a coach or the lives of a team, then we need to hear from you. We'd love to partner with you. Love to see what God has laid on your heart and how we can bless and encourage. I have found through personal experience that it's best if a parent does not directly serve, which everybody's different in this, but it's best if a parent doesn't directly serve with the sports team that their son or daughter's playing on, because the coach is wondering, why are you serving here and what angle do you have to get more playing time? But when you can show up and just fully bless and just be generous and not have an angle coming at anybody, just with the mentality of a servant, just like Jesus did everywhere he walked into. How can I encourage you? What can I do to equip you? I just want to give. The receptivity of a coach is more likely, and they don't have to worry about you or what you're trying to get or anything. Just show up and serve and love, and that's the way that we want to shape cultures for schools here in Central Arkansas.
Yeah, Central Arkansas East has done so well in moving forward. We've got, of course, Conway going well with Blake Walter and Ryan Webb and others there just coming on board. We got a more mature guy in Little Rock with Lance Kaufman, still younger than me, but he's the director down in Jefferson County and works with a guy named Jimmy Walker. And Jimmy takes care of Whitehall and Pine Bluff and Watson Chapel. And Jimmy's kind of like a rock star down there. His main rock star is his wife, Stephanie, who goes with him all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But they're doing a great job. Jimmy, some of you may know that name. He was an All-American defensive tackle at Arkansas, and he has a great heart. But there's so many in our staff. We got, like Josh said earlier, we've got over 20 people on the staff now. And we're really we're wide open. If somebody feels called to the ministry, I hear different areas say, well, we're full. Well, we're never full. If you feel called, there are openings, because what that allows us to do is to go deeper. One example, many years ago, I said I was working with a guy, and I said, one of our reps, and I said, have you reached out to the basketball coach? Because many people think we're just a football organization, and we're not. Women's sports is just booming. Women's softball, volleyball, all of that. And he was focusing on football, and I said, have you been to the basketball coach? And he made the comment. He says, well, I've called them, and they hadn't called me back. And I said, well, do you know where the gym is? And so my nature in the 40 years in business, I had to go find I was a hunter. And all of us are hunters. And they don't just show up. They just wouldn't just call up and say, hey, I'd like to buy some stuff from you. And but anyway, I think he got the message, and it's been great. But I thought that was kind of funny. Where's the gym? And but the ministry is going strong. We've got a great group of people here in Central Arkansas, and we've got people coming on board. They go through a process of coming on board. If they think they want to come on board, they think they're called, then we'll start that process. We'll do something called tryout training. Mm-hmm. It gives them a series of questions and answers, and they have to answer and report in, and it lets them get a better feel for FCA, and it gives us a better feel for who they are. And so, and then everybody's vetted with a background check, and then they begin the process of going through boot camp, which is a fundraising mechanism, and they come out. And really what we like is not to have them do any ministry until they're fully funded for 1 year, and then they engage in the process of expanding the gospel.
I think to speak on a little bit of the calling aspect of it, I was reading through the story of Jonah recently, and something that sticks out to me about Jonah's story is God clearly calls him. The very beginning, the first verse talks about God told Jonah to go to Nineveh, and Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh, but I'm sure in his heart he was like, man, it would be pretty cool if their hearts did get changed. Like, I'm sure we all have that idea in our hearts of like, it would be cool if this could happen, but I don't want to do it. Reading through that story in terms of calling, talking to really anyone who's struggling with where they are, where they're going, where they're headed. I know in my life, I've seen that before. When you run from something, there's always going to be a consequence, kind of like you spoke on earlier, or the Lord's going to be able to bring you back in and say, why were you running from me? Yeah. Like Jonah, in his case, he gets swallowed by the big fish and is isolated, and all he's got is time to sit in there with his thoughts and this stinky fish. And then I was reading, it says, it didn't just say he gets spit out, he gets vomited out, which is like the Lord was making sure the message was loud and clear in Jonah's life. But then he goes, and he's a little reluctant still as he's going, but he just shows up. And that's a lot of time, I think, how I view even my role with FCA is, Lord, I don't know what you have for me today, but would you lead me? Would you guide me with your Holy Spirit and help me to just show up well and whatever that looks like today? Jonah showed up and a whole city was changed because of his obedience. I think that's just a really encouraging story of we've seen it before. The game plan's right in front of us. The word of God is alive and active. Like if we can really dig into that and believe what it says, we're going to be better for it in the ministry that we're trying to execute here in Central Arkansas. So that was really encouraging as you said that. To kind of transition here and speak a little bit to, I heard this recent interview with Coach Nick Saban, and I mean, everyone has their opinion about Alabama football, and I know around here it's not the most exciting thing ever. But
is it the most exciting thing in Missouri?
No, not at all. No. I'm not saying I'm an Alabama.
We're in the same boat here.
Yeah. Okay. There's no kind of tide in here at all. But he said something, and I thought it was really interesting. He said, I didn't step down from my coaching position because I thought I couldn't do it anymore. He said, I felt like it was time where eventually I could be hurting the program because I was staying there longer. And this kind of transition of at different points in your life, you're called to different things. And sometimes you're called to step out later in your life. Sometimes you're called to step in. But there's all these different views and moments where if you're not listening, the Lord's trying to speak to you and he's trying to tell you there's a time and there's a season for everything. That was really encouraging to me to hear him say that of, you're at the top of your game. And even for you right now, like we're growing, we're doing really awesome things here. But also keeping in mind that there's another generation coming. They're hungry. They're ready to serve and be obedient and faithful, in whatever capacity that looks like. So, I did have a separate question, kind of a little bit more fun here. We asked this on the last podcast.
I didn't know what he was about to ask me. Said,
No.
Yeah, I mean,
what's
I
your
was
time
like,
frame?
where are we transitioning into?
Yeah,
here?
sorry.
I mean,
I just had to share that real quick,
No,
and we
I
can
think it's
That was
expand
good.
on that just
That
a
was
little bit.
good.
But
I have an answer for that.
you do?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you're right. I have to look at that. I'm going to be 73 in January, and we are in the process of structuring so that when I'm not here, the structure's in place. And I won't mention any names right now, but they're highly qualified and ready to go. And I think it'll be a very positive situation. Bringing people on like you, Zach, and so many that are coming on. They're young, they're creative, they're energetic, and they're called by the Lord. So a couple of things. We want to make sure that we can get them healthy financially, that they stay healthy spiritually and physically, because if you're not physically in tune, you can't produce. And one of the things I wanted to share earlier, but y'all all heard the story about in Acts chapter 9, I believe, verse 15, about Saul being blinded, and he ends up going back over to house with Judas. And then God calls Ananias, and he says, Ananias, I need you to go see this guy named Saul, and I need you to visit with him, lay your hands on him, and pray. And what did Ananias say? He said, God, you got the wrong guy. He didn't really say that, but he said, are you sure? He's a bad guy. But what did God say? He said, go, because he is a chosen instrument of mine. And when I read that, I thought, everybody within FCA has been called, and they're chosen instruments. Now, a chosen instrument is a tool that has specific task. We have tasks that we are to accomplish, but also, and I'll probably share this at the banquet too, because everybody that comes and we talk to that are Christians, they also are chosen instruments for God. And so if we really embrace that, and you realize that time is limited, some sooner than others probably, but we never know what our time limit is up.
Right.
But to go back to your question, one, we're chosen instruments, and two, yes, I think any person that is in a leadership position for the overall organization has to have a plan for transition. And that's what we're looking at.
Well, and that's legacy in and of itself of what do they say in The Sandlot? It's what is it? The heroes fade, but legends never die, or something like that. I just pulled that out of nowhere, but
I'm impressed.
That's a great
movie
movie.
vault
Yeah.
in your brain is
it's another great baseball movie.
It is. We talked about so to end our time on something fun. Mark, what would you say are your top 3 sports movies?
But most of the movies that I watch from a sports viewpoint, or you guys would never know, within the last 50 years.
Come on.
Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Come on, man.
What do you mean,
Rocky?
Yeah.
Oh, yo, Adrian. That's what my car's named after.
Oh.
Rocky is a staple in my house.
Oh.
Your car.
Yeah, it's red. It's the red beauty. It's Adrian.
Okay.
Anyways,
I don't think I'm ever going to ride in that car again.
How about
joking.
Rudy? You remember Rudy?
You know Rudy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
I
course,
bet you don't know this one. 42.
of course. I've seen all these movies.
I should have known that.
Yeah.
I should have
Yeah.
known that.
42 is not an old movie, though.
Yeah.
What about Miracle?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that last show.
We
Yeah.
did.
One of the greatest speeches of all time. That I can't remember the coach's name, but yeah, great movie.
Great coach speech.
Yeah, I love Rudy. Rudy is an all-time favorite in my mind. I just love because isn't it based off a true story? It is based off a true story, but a guy who just keeps getting knocked down and getting his teeth knocked out, but he keeps getting up. And
going.
Is that how you feel like your career went at Arkansas?
Oh no!
Wow.
Everybody gets knocked down.
Yeah.
Everybody gets knocked down.
Yeah.
How about Caddyshack?
No, I've
That's
never.
it. No?
No.
Oh, come on.
Oh man, I have to. I don't know. What are you thinking? That's classic.
I've never seen it before. I never even heard of that before.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, Chevy Chase fan.
I don't know who that is.
We got some work to do.
Oh man.
Get some homework this weekend.
Yeah. Hoosiers is another great one. Isn't Hoosiers the one where they measure?
Yeah.
He measures the court, and he's like, it's the same regulation we've always been playing.
Goals 10 feet.
Yeah. Man, that's what. There's Coach Carter is another movie that I really like, and there's a few movies I feel like as I've stepped into the world of FCA that I pieced together a few different quotes and a few different ideas in my head, and I feel like I'm just a copycat sometimes. I'm like, man, these movies have shaped the way that I.
You're just biblical. There's nothing new under the sun. So
there you go.
Just quoting and
There you
pulling
go.
together and making
That's
it happen.
it.
So
That's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mark, you got a challenge for us? We got about a minute left. Any final closing thoughts
Well, I
or words?
appreciate you allowing a older gentleman to sneak in here. I was going to share earlier you're talking about how you stay within the bumper pads. Remember in Hebrews 2, it talks about let's be very careful that we don't drift. And the only way we don't drift, as we talked earlier, is one, stay in the Word, stay in prayer, surround yourself with strong Christians, and be aware that Satan is after you. Mm-hmm. And Satan attacks at our weakest point. You know, in athletics, you have the guys come back to the huddle and they'll tell you, it's okay, I can handle my guy. Or, man, my guy's, he's really good. So you go, most of the time, your game plan is to attack at the weakest point. And Satan knows exactly our weakest point. And so as long as we're aware that the battle exists, then we can stand against it with God's strength.
Yeah. That's good. Thanks for being here, Mark.
Yeah,
we appreciate you.
Well, thanks for letting me come.
This podcast wouldn't happen if you didn't sign off on it. So we're super grateful for that.
Yeah.
It's I think it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, we're excited about the future. Anything, Zach?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us today on Beyond the Huddle. We're Faith Meets Competition. We're looking forward to coming weeks, and thanks for joining us today. And if you need to reach out to us, Central Arkansas FCA, you go to the website, centralarkfca.org, and or is it Central Arkansas?
Central Ark.
Yeah, centralarkfca.org, and look us up. We'll be glad to get back in touch with you. Thanks so much. You'll have a great day, great week of worship, and we'll see you next time.